Alright, so we are going to start our form-based design, and what I like to do first before any drawing is I like to give my pencil a test drive. So what I've got here is the PC 1007 Imperial Violet. Because that would be a lot to write, I'm just going to put down PC 1007, and then I'm going to draw 3 boxes. 1, 2, 3. What we're working with on this project is a concept called value. Value can describe how light or dark the color is. Value is changed in painting by using more white, or to raise the tone, or to lower the tone you use black. When you're using dry media like pencil, value is adjusted by how hard you push down. So in this first value, which should be very, very light, I'm going to touch the page just very, very lightly, and what happens is the paper shows through, which creates a bright 1. And then if I want my 3-tone to be darker, I push down a little bit harder. The 2-tone has to be right in the middle. And what I like to do is I like to think of it this way. I can always bring the tone, like I can push it back, I can make it darker. But once the pencil is on the page, it's very difficult to make it lighter. Prismacolor does sell a eraser, but I have found that the eraser is useful, but it's not a substitute for understanding how the media works. So I took a first shot at that tone. What I'm doing now is I took off my glasses and I'm squinting. Our eyes are really, really, really sensitive to tonal value. And so sometimes when they're wide open, especially if you have really good eyesight, you're not going to see the change, or you might see a change that isn't really there. So with my eyes open, the 2 does look a little darker than the 1, but I don't think the change holds up when I squint. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of go over it one more time, push it back one more step. Now when I squint, I see 1, 2, 3 different tones. This is kind of like your vocab section. You're kind of figuring out how light and how dark the pencil goes. Watch out for colors like yellow, because against white paper, yellow isn't going to be super. Phase 2 is I'm going to draw 4, 5, 6, or 7 squiggly lines. We don't want to go super, super squiggly where we're getting ourselves into trouble, but we also don't want them to be like perfectly straight. Here I've got contours that align with each other. You can also have contours that oppose, or they can start out opposing and then come into alignment. That's up to you. These lines, and I don't know, I hope they're kind of visible on the screen. These are called lay-in. So just like when we started our line-based design, we had our starter lines, we had our lay-in. We are going to have lay-in for this project as well. I'll talk about how to do the ends of the page later, but what I want to do here is I want to start to apply a tone, and I want the tone to be dark on the edges, but as it gets to the center, I want it to lighten up. So this is called a gradient. It's when a color or tone shifts from dark to mid to light, and there's really not like a point where it cuts off. So this first part that I'm putting down is kind of my rough-in. Again, working within that kind of framework of we can always make it darker, but it's very difficult to make it lighter. It also kind of grounds the page because there's a big difference between the pigment and the white paper. Alright, so looks kind of flat, but I've used my tool mark to kind of identify contours. I'm going to go back in. I'm going to start to, and everybody's going to have their own way of applying pigment. What I like to do is I like to shade one line at a time, kind of like I'm mowing the kind of lighten up every step closer. So it's like step 1, step 2, step 3. This is going to work for a while, but ultimately I will have to change the way I'm applying pigment because I squint down, I can see a 1 and a 2, but I think at this point I really do need to kind of like contain it with a 3. So, you know, this is kind of like a balancing act. You guys aren't, you know, you're not that far off. Like at some point you're going to learn to drive a car. And when you're driving the car, it's like kind of you're checking your speed, you're checking your rear view mirrors, you're checking what's in front of you. You go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. When I work on this drawing, you know, I'm checking the contours. I'm squinting, I'm checking to see all 3 tones. I'm also relaxing my eyes, you know, seeing if they all work when they come together. Looking at this right now, I see 2 or 3 tones. I'm going to start to use a circular application, so changing the direction I'm adding value in, so that I can kind of blend out that tone, the gradient, I should say. Ooh. The final thing I kind of want to let you guys know is that we're going to work on these apprentices for at least 2 days. You really shouldn't be able to finish one of these in a day. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you'd have to be very talented to finish one of these in a day. I'm pretty fast, and granted, I'm giving a demo. I'm not anywhere near done. This is kind of like very deliberate work. And I like to kind of put in a light tone. Some people leave a highlight. Sometimes the highlight works. Other times it is distracting. You can play around with highlights if you choose. Now let's check it. Squint down. Check the screen. Yeah. So we've got 3, 2, 1, and it's in one smooth, continuous transition. I would finish this one out blue. And then I'd do a new color over here, new color over here, new color over here. But like I said, we're going to work on these for a few days. So thank you for looking. Thank you for listening.